War II, 1941, or a post-apocalyptic future, and you can choose when that happens. And just please remember, as you write that climate, period, imagery, and language all contribute to the sense of place. So if, let's say, you're writing about Pearl Harbor during World War II, and you say, "Oh, my good sir, thank you so very kindly for the work you've been doing for your lordship," I'll sort of go, not really sure that that's contributing to the sense that it's Pearl Harbor during World War II. See what I'm saying? So that's the language. And I'm sure that you guys will understand the rest of those things. So if you could take 5 minutes, write a little passage of one of these things. So away you go. Remember, don't take your pencils off the paper or your pens off the paper. Just keep going. Even if you think, oh gosh, I can't do this, just keep on going. So 5 minutes. Why do I not see people scribbling away? Come on.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Rafael.
You made it.
How are you doing?
Happy to
Yeah,
see
I made
you.
it.
I joined late, but I am here.
Hi, Brenda.
Hi.
Hi. So there's a little writing exercise, a little quick 5-minute jump start into the writing, which is you can see what to do right here. Take 5 minutes, write a passage set in one of these places. A Russian peasant farm during the time Napoleon invades, Pearl Harbor during World War II, or a post-apocalyptic future, and you get to choose which one. I'm going to guess which one Brenda would choose. And then just try and create, as best as you can, the sense that you're in that place and time. Rafael, I see that you're not writing. Get your pen out, get going. Pen to paper. All right, you've got about a minute, so see if you can wind it up. Did I see eye rolling there? Okay, so that's it. Is there anybody who wants to read out loud the little passage that they wrote and demonstrate that they were...
Me.
Yeah, you, Rafael, go ahead.
What? Me?
Oh, Brenda, sorry, go ahead, Brenda.
Okay, I wake up to the lovely sound of blood-curdling screaming. My mother rushes into my room, something about a mutated cat. monster in the house. You think it being the year 3003, we'd have enough tech for guarding our house, but no, we barely have enough for basic air conditioning.
Okay.
That's all I got. I didn't have a lot of time.
No, but that's great, Brenda. That's excellent, because right away we're like, oh, we're definitely not now, right? And how do we know? We know because there are things that are different. The world is different, right?
Mm-hmm.
What else? Who else would like to have a go? Don't be shy. This is a class we have to like put yourself out there. Anybody? Really? Come on.
I don't think so this time.
Rafal, you're going to go?
I've written 2 words.
2 words. What 2 words?
It's better than nothing.
Right, what 2 words? Tay, how about you? You want to go? Yeah, I'm not letting anybody off the hook. I'm going to call on everybody.
Okay. Sure.
Yes, there we go.
Okay. John looked out the window and saw flames of from the second boat to the left. There were 2. He decided that he was going to tell someone. It's kind of as far as I got.
That's fine, because I already know that your character's on a boat and that there are flames. You've already given me quite a bit of setting. Just those 2 sentences, right? Or actually, it's probably just 1 sentence. You already gave me some setting. I know which one of these 3 stories, or probably which one of these 3 stories you're writing, right? Somebody else. Sarah, would you like to go? Not off the hook.
Hello.
Hi.
Okay. So I watched him contemplate for a moment whether the fly would land on the sleeve of his worn woolen brown coat. That's all.
That's great. And again, because of the details of setting, right? I think I know which one you were writing. I'm pretty sure I know which one you were writing.
Which one?
Raduca, did you want to go? Oh, you're asking me, Sarah, which one?
Yeah.
First one.
Yeah, okay. That's right.
Raduca?
The hills were covered in deep snow. It's a hard winter and people are hungry. Olga, fetch me the barrel. We need to look forward. The man was dressed in rags and blah, blah, blah.
Okay, excellent. And again, it's the details that carry the story forward, right? So when I hear those details, I kind of imagine them in my head and I put myself into that place. So the thing when you're writing a story, the setting is important because it kind of takes your reader out of the chair that they're in at home and it plops them down into the place wherever you want the story to be happening. But if you neglect to do that, if you forget to put those details in, your reader's sort of sitting there going, what? Where am I? What's going on? I don't understand. And it's not a ton of information. It's just a little information that lets you know, here's where this story is happening. Is there anybody else who wanted to go?
If I can just say something. What happened is it helped me to know that actually Napoleon lost that battle because of winter. There was a terrible winter, so that's how I even brought it that it's winter. So maybe
right, excellent. Yeah, that's right. So like the more information you have about the setting, of course, the better a job you can do in choosing the exact details that are going to make the story move forward. I feel like there's somebody else here who I didn't hear from. Penny, did you want to go?
I'll just unmute. Good morning or after evening.
Good morning.
The year is 2030. The humans that are left in my country are the survivors of an unmanaged, tragedy and suffering. The economy is in tatters. Commercial buildings are empty.
You mean now?
Got worse. Got worse.
Yeah, right. So excellent. Again, the details, right? These details are the ones that move us into the place. So was there anybody else? I can't see. Oh yeah, there's Marlene, and I'm not sure who this other person is. Oh, but Marlene, did you do the little project here, the writing project?
No, I just joined. I was supposed to host the meeting, but I
Oh
think,
dear.
yeah. No, I'm
Sorry.
no worries.
And there's somebody else here. I need a name, but I can see that there's one more person and I don't know who it is. Oops, I keep on moving the thing forward. Okay. Well, go back. Let me go back, previous. All right, I'm going back. And, I want to go back one more, I think. Just 1 second. Previous one. Yeah, okay. So we did this. Is there anybody, before we continue, is there anybody else who wanted to read their story, or even if you don't want to, I really want you to. Anybody else? All right. Well, I'm going to move forward unless somebody like puts up their hand and says, me. Okay. All right. So the next slide is this one. Okay. So here we are. Some of you were in the class last week and I gave a writing project, and the writing project was this. Your character is you, 1 year before your moment of profound connection. Write a 1 or 2 page scene with dialogue, because a scene means it has dialogue in it, right? In which you tell someone or someone tells you that you won't get or are incapable of discovering the kind of connection you really want. Make sure to invent a specific date, town, place. Notice a lot of this is what we're talking about this week, and characters' names. Make sure your readers really believe all the reasons it's impossible to have that kind of connection. Does anybody have a little piece of their writing that they'd want to read out loud that they feel like, wow, that came out well? Now, 1 second. Before I continue with this, where I'm like pulling teeth. Okay, you guys all signed up for a writing class. And a writing class means you write something. But the thing is, writing is very nice if you're doing it for yourself. But most people who write are kind of doing it for other people. And at a certain point, you have to risk being vulnerable and letting other people hear your work. So when I say, hey guys, raise your hand and read, I actually want you to do that. I'm not joking around. I do want you to read out some of your stuff because I can't help you. And you're not going to be able to learn as well as you might if you're not willing to risk sharing your work with us. So with that, all of that said, now that the teacher's like, I'm going to ask you again, who would like to share? Yay, Brenda, thank you.
Fair warning, my mom helped me a lot at this, and apparently she sucks at writing, so. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, the fairy and I are in the forest outside part. Oh yeah, also, I'm using my story because I friggin' suck at writing the other thing.
No, that's totally fine because you asked me last week, I don't know if you remember, but you did ask me, would it be okay if you continued your story? And I said, sure, go for it.
Okay. It is October 20th. It is cloudy and a tad windy. We're sitting beneath a tree catching our breath because we just finished doing battle with a monster. As I take in my surroundings and my present situation, I'm suddenly overwhelmed with a feeling of how did I get here? I'm just so tired. It's just been tiring and not because of just the monster. As I replay the events that brought me to this point in my head, I start to get mad at Willow. How did I let this little creature draw me into the secret life of fighting monsters? And I'm feeling of regret forever meeting Willow grows inside me. I can no longer hold it back. Why did you have to drag me into this? I yelled at Willow. The sudden break in general silence besides the panting startles her. What are you talking about? You agreed to this, she answered, her face a mix of shock and confusion at my lashing out at her. You never told me what I was really in for. How could you? You are a fairy and have no idea what a teenage girl's life is like. I'm leaving my friends because I don't have time to see them, and I can't even tell them why I can't see them. My grades are failing. I have to lie to my family, not to mention I could literally die. But it's not just that. Oh, no. It's that there is no one that I can share any of this with, that can understand the sacrifices, the challenges, even the success.
Brenda, listen for a second. Press pause. You got to an amazing section there. That's an amazing section, actually, where your character is like literally ranting and being upset. I can't do this. I can't do that. I can't do this. I can't do that. That's excellent. Because when a character says, I can't do this, I can't do that, what they mean is, I want to do this, I want to do that, right? And that's great because you're also kind of throwing in to highlight the things that, the ways in which she wants to connect, but she can't. So that's really, really well done. I'm very impressed. Good job. Was that your mother or was that a little bit you also?
Yeah, it was mainly my idea. I had the basic idea. She helped me shape it out a bit.
Okay, so great. Thank you so much for sharing that. I'm sorry for cutting you off. I just want to make sure that everybody has enough time. So does anybody else have a piece that they think that would be they think that they did a good job on? Raduca? Can't hear you. I still can't hear you. No, I can't hear you. Ears.
Okay, sorry, I realize so I don't know if it's good. I'm just willing to share it if that's okay.
Bravo, actually. Thank you so much.
Okay. So this is it. I was in a space between sleep and awaking. The tomatoes were boiling on the stove. My grandma was making her tomato sauce for the winter. It was an immense pot, so the sound was invading the room and my brain. I could not escape and I didn't want to. I was lolling, it was lolling me back and forth, back and forth. My heart was aching. Wake up, wake up. I forced myself to open my eyes to see who was talking to me. I felt I couldn't lift my eyelids open, but somehow I was seeing a child who couldn't have been more than 10 years old. He kept pulling on my sleeve. Wake up, please. I gently pushed his hand away and turned towards the wall. Go. I wish I could. I need you. I felt getting irritated. It's my vacation. There's nothing that needs to be done. They absolutely have to do. I'm not moving. Go. That sound engulfed me again. I felt slipping away than the hand. You need to come. Can't you just stay put? And to myself, why am I even talking to him? Who is he? Grandma? No response. The kid was getting increasingly more restless. He kept tapping on objects around the room, tagging the small window with lacy coverings, the bench with the wash basin and the soap right next to it, the old grandma clock, the plate with cake, grandpa clock, the plate with cake hidden behind the door under the kitchen cloth. What is he doing? Why can't you just stay put? Come and lay next to me, there's time. Funny you should say this. I tried not to move at all, to fool him into believing I was asleep. I could hear my heart thumping. I wanted him to leave, but I was also afraid that once he left, I might not see him again. So what? I could hear my voice trying to convince myself they didn't matter. I was getting really anxious and found myself following him. The sounds were fading away and so the smells. Wait for me, I yelled. You are too fast. I can't keep up. You need to, there's no other way. Why the mystery? There's no mystery. There just is. Now I'm just out of breath. Slow down. I can't run. I'm not fit. Who asked you to run? I can't slow down. I can't wait. He kept moving forward, pulling me with him. Anyway.
That's great. Yeah, so that's really great. And again, one of the reasons that it's really great is because there's this connect and disconnect, right? Between the two people, the person who's lying down and the person who's like tapping on the sleeve and kind of wandering here and there and like then following this person. And at the same time, there's this moment of profound connection where there's the tomatoes bubbling on the stove. And there's this difference. This is something I want to point out to everybody, where the connection takes place through the senses, right? This moment, she doesn't have to say, I feel connected to my grandmother. Instead, she simply described the boiling tomatoes.
By the way, the kid is time.
Yeah.
As I was talking, that I wanted to stop time, but anyway, so I don't know to what degree it was a hard thing that I wanted to express, but
No, it's great. It's really great. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, Raduca. Somebody else want to share briefly? A piece that they felt like they did a good job on. Sarah?
So I can't say that I feel like I've done a good job on this, but it was really helpful to hear Raduca talk about or share her piece, because one of the things that I had trouble with this week with this assignment was, it says 2-page scene in which you tell someone or someone tells you, and I wasn't able to create a character, and this whole exercise turned into a very like psychological exercise.
It is. Sorry.
Pardon?
It is. It very deliberately is.
And so it just seemed like it was a voice coming from my own head that I didn't externalize enough to make a character out of it. But
Right.
it did have a lot to say, and I was writing about how this thing was saying why it's completely impossible for me. But I got hung up on it didn't turn into a like independent character, and so
that's all right. Would you like to share a bit with the group? You don't have to, but
no,
if you do, it's good.
yeah, no, I don't want to share that part. Just I just wanted to share that challenge that I had.
Oh yeah, no, that's totally cool. That's cool. Yeah, that's fine. All right, so one of the things that I really want you guys to do is when I make a suggestion for the week's writing, like it's a suggestion. That's all it is. And if you end up writing something totally different, that's also cool. Like, because whatever you're writing is what you sort of are flowing with in the moment. That's cool. I'm happy to like talk about whatever you've done. And in particular, like all that's going to happen is instead of me talking about, let's say, the connection disconnection in the story, let's say you wrote a whole thing about, I don't know, Napoleon's army. Let's say that was it, right? So then I'm going to be talking about whatever the subject is, the focus of this week instead, right? So don't be nervous if your work isn't narrowly exactly what I asked you to do. I just want you to write. Go write. It's all good. I'm going to move ahead unless somebody waves their hand madly and says, me, me, me. I'm not seeing the hand waving. All right. Okay, so the next slide is this. Can you guys see do you just see the slide rather than the slide with a big bunch of faces on it? Do you see my actual screen or do you see like this? If I do this, can you read the words?
Yes.
I see faces.
Oh, that's
Faces
great.
and the slide.
Wait, you see moving faces, us, or do you see
I can see you speaking and the other participants and the slide.
Do you see the whole slide or am I blocking the words right now?
Well, I just move your face and then I can read everything.
Oh, that's cool. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go to this. And just like we talked about negative space last week, you know, because all of the arts, whether it's dance or painting or writing or playwriting or what did I say? What did I miss? I missed something. Music. There's negative space. Negative space kind of frames the positive space. And so setting can be used, for example, to ground your story, but it also can be used to upset that sense of groundedness. So like, let's say a place like Middle Earth in Tolkien is a place that is both familiar, deeply familiar to people who've been in the English countryside, but it's also not, right? So that's how in science fiction and fantasy, a lot of times the setting seems really similar, but it's just not similar enough, and it kind of tips us off so that we know that something's off. And it can also work very similarly if you take a place that you know and you completely, the term is defamiliarize. You just make it really different. You look at it from a different angle. So for example, in Kafka's story, The Metamorphosis, instead of looking at a very ordinary bourgeois kind of bedroom, like this one, instead of looking at it like that, you look at it from the perspective of the cockroach, so that the setting becomes very defamiliarized. Oops, I went the wrong way. I went the wrong way. Anyway, next one. But no matter what, it's kind of important to have a place, a setting. And there's a book that I used to read to my kids all the time that I really loved, and it's called The Grey Lady and the Strawberry Snatcher. And in it, there's this guy, and you can see him here, the strawberry snatcher, and he runs along behind this lady who's bought strawberries for her kids. He runs along behind her and he's like, I want the strawberries, give me the strawberries. He's like running after her. But at a certain point, she vanishes. And then here he is, and he's kind of looking here, he's looking there, he's looking here, and he's nowhere. We don't really know where this character is. And there's a saying in writing that nothing happens nowhere. And some of you who took the class last time heard me say it, that nothing happens nowhere. The setting is really important because otherwise the character is just free floating in the same way as this poor guy is just free floating. We don't know much about him because he's just floating around. So we kind of hope for this, which is, again, Tolkien, back to Tolkien. So place is created from memory or research. So one of the reasons that I had you do that exercise last week, and I'm going to have you do a different one this week, is to create a place based on memory rather than research. And it can be purely fantastic or it can be heavily grounded in reality. And so this one, for example, so I think this is just classic. Most people think, oh, Tolkien invented Middle-earth, it's his own invention, it's nothing like any other place. Well, not exactly true. So does anybody know the name of the village where the hobbits live? Or rather, where Bilbo Baggins lives? It's actually on there. Dear God, Goldie. Does anybody know the name of the place? What's the name of the place where Bilbo Baggins lives? Baggins?
The Shire?
He lives in the Shire. What's the name of his house? Anybody? Oh, come on, you guys. I can't believe you. Are you not all nerds like me? All right, so it's Bag End. The name of the house where he lives is Bag End. And in fact, Tolkien drew this. He liked to draw illustrations of his books, and he drew this. This is what he said Bag End looks like. And Bag End, theoretically, should be a total invention of the writer, right? But in fact, his aunt, Jane Neves, had a farm that he went and stayed at, and it was called Bag End, the same name as Bilbo Baggins' house, Bag End. And it had this heavy Elizabethan timbering, which is like this kind of heavy wood kind of thing happening, and very, very similarly to the interior that he drew for Bilbo Baggins. And so you don't have to reinvent the wheel when it comes to setting. If you take something that you already know, it can become fantastical. It doesn't have to remain Bag End that belongs to Aunt Jane Neves. It can become Bag End that belongs to Bilbo Baggins in the Shire, right? You can just reinvent. So does Jane have like a really curved ceiling? No, she doesn't. He put that in himself. He like kind of tinkered with what he knew. And that's true for all of you. You already have the fixings for really good stories and really good settings based on things that you know already. So for example, Rafal over there lives in, is it Switzerland or France?
I'm living in France.
France, right? So he already knows several amazing places in France that I do not know, and that if he wrote them down, I'd be like, tell me more. And Raduca, I'm sure, knows lots of places in Romania that I have never been to, would love to go, and she could write me a story that kind of transports me. So in many ways, even just ordinary places in the world become fantastical when you put them into a story where people haven't been there. When I write a story, which is what I do, when I write a story that's set in rural outback Australia, what ends up happening is everyone's like, oh, that's cool, I've never been there. It's like fantasy. It's like fantasy that's grounded in reality. It's interesting. All right, bump. So here we go. Setting is the background for character. And like other elements, it can be in harmony or in conflict with the character. So for example, Jay Gatsby is who he is because of the Jazz Age, or Leopold Bloom is Leopold Bloom because he lives in Dublin, Ireland, or Holden Caulfield is a product of Pensy Prep School in New York City. So this little guy, which country do you think he grew up in?
America.
No, really? You're kidding.
Great Britain.
Right. So yeah, he looks like an American kid. He's the product of growing up in America. So that the setting, we know just by looking, right? Setting has a powerful role in the creation of character. Somebody who grows up in America is per force quite different than, let's say, a kid who grows up in, I don't know, France. Yeah. Okay. Boop. So here we go. Would somebody read this? Who's going to volunteer to read this out loud? Yes. This is an easy one.
I could give it a try.
Go ahead, Rafael. Thank you.
He opened the door himself and started down the walk to get her going. The sky was a dying violet and houses stood out darkly against it. Bulbous liver-colored monstrosities of uniform ugliness. Through I have a bit trouble with that. Is this through? Nowhere.
No, too. Yeah.
Since this had been a fashionable neighborhood 40 years ago, his mother persisted in thinking that it did well to have an apartment in it. Each house had a narrow collar of dirt around it, in which sat usually a grubby child. Julian walked with his hands in his pocket, his hands down and thrust forward, and his eyes glazed with a determination to make himself completely numb. During the time, he would be sacrificed to her pleasure.
Excellent. Thanks, Rafael. Okay, so what do we have here? Like the title says, place conveys emotion. This is mostly a description of a place, but it's also telling us something very profound about the way the person who's viewing it, the point of view character, feels about it. So I highlighted the way the author did that so that you would know that that's what the author's doing, right? If you go through this passage, it's a single paragraph out of a Flannery O'Connor story. And what does she do? She used a lot of language that conveys emotion. It tells us how the character's feeling. So when you're looking at something, the character who's looking at something, they see it the way they feel it. So if you're really happy, let's say, and you go to visit the school, you'll notice different things than if you were really miserable and you're sitting in the principal's office. So if I'm sitting in the principal's office in Australia, the thing that I have my eye on is actually, I'm not going to say this because Americans will freak out. Anyway, in Australia, they believe in, or they used to believe in, corporal punishment. And so the person who's unhappy and afraid that they're going to get punished is thinking very different thoughts and seeing different things, literally seeing different things than the character who's really happy, right? So when you write, you have the possibility of conveying emotion through what the character sees, through the landscape. And now this is kind of an interesting idea. I mean, at least I think it's an interesting idea. I'm interested. I see lots of bored faces. There's people who are so bored by this, but I think this is interesting. Okay, so let's see. So I put this photograph here because when you look at this photograph, it conveys emotion, right? What emotion do you think that's conveying?
More of the sad side. You see a young girl in a lot of litter coming out of a door, and black and white does gives it more a dramatic look.
That's right. Right.
That all the trash is white, and the girl is not. Her clothes she wears are pretty, I would say, more brownish. So the trash is that what the attention is going to. And when you look first at the picture, you see the first thing you see is the trash come out the door.
Right. Excellent. So the landscape itself is telling you something. It's conveying an emotion. And I think that something that writers or readers, I'm going to say like this, something that readers don't necessarily always get is that when you're reading about the landscape, that might be the boring part that you skip over in a book, but it's not the boring part if it's tied tightly, like that previous passage, to the emotion of the character. So let's say this said, instead of what it actually says, right now it says, he opened the door himself and started to walk to get her going. The sky was a dying violet, and the houses stood out darkly against its bulbous, liver-colored monstrosities of a uniform ugliness that no two were alike. Okay, so we already know this guy is not happy. But imagine if instead it said like this. He opened the door himself and started down the walk to get her going. It was almost night, and there was a stoplight in the middle of the street, and there was a cart going down the street, and it rattled. So lots of you and me have written passages like that, where you're like, oh yeah, what does it look like? Let me quickly throw in these details of what a place looks like. But in actuality, that's the kind of information that your readers are going to skip over and think is boring. But when you put in something like this, where as you're moving through the landscape, you're also experiencing it as an emotional invitation from the character, that changes things. I wouldn't skip over this. This is not a piece that I would skip over because I'm learning about the character and the way he sees the world right now. It's not just a random cart going down the street. It's interesting because it's his view of the world. So let's go to the next thing. So this is basically what I just said. Hello, there's the light post. Don't bore your readers. So it's important to notice that the story's already happening during these expressions of place, right? This character's already moving down through the street. He's going to do something. There are things happening in the story. And as he goes, as the action of the story is happening, we're getting these images. So I think that this, like I don't know so much about film. Raduca knows a lot about film. And I think there's quite a few people on here who know a lot about film, but I know very little. But recently I looked at a film that did exactly that, where the emotion was conveyed not through the faces of the actors, but very beautifully through the colors that were used in the film. And I thought, aha, there's somebody who's using landscape to convey emotion in a very subtle and interesting way. So, hang on, moving on. Boop. So yeah, the reason that I use the lamppost as an example is just because I one time had a student in one of my graduate classes at Northwestern, and he had put in, I had said, use landscape, use landscape, use landscape. And he wanted to write this really sad character, who's kind of walking down the street. And he had added in a street light, not even a stoplight, a street light. And he's like, but I put in landscape, I put it in. And I said, what does the streetlight have to do with anything? I don't care about the streetlight. It's not telling me how your character feels. And he said, what if it was a stoplight? So I was amused by what if it was a stoplight, because yeah, maybe a stoplight would work, but it was, it was like in the middle of nowhere like that. So next thing, I love this. So you've got a little writing exercise before the end. And it's this, take 3 minutes. And guys, I'm hard on the time. You've really got 3 minutes. Like actually put your pen to paper and go. It's like a race. Take 3 minutes to describe your own room. And again, how is your own room an expression of who you are and how you're feeling? How do you hide parts of yourself in your room? So go. You've got 3 minutes and I'm literally timing you. Pen to paper. Yikes. I pressed off. Go away. All right, you've got about 30 seconds. No. All right. So the reason that I give you these exercises and I say go, 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 go is because I'm trying to teach you how to bypass the psychological, you know, like the conscious mind that says, I can't do this. This is too hard. It's too difficult. I don't want to. I have all these thoughts. I need to delete stuff. But if I keep on saying go, 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 if you do it to yourself, it works too. If I keep on saying go, 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 right, 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 it bypasses that resistant part. It's really helpful if you decide to do this on your own, set a little timer and tell yourself, you have to write for 5 minutes, go, and not take your pen off the paper. It works. So is there anybody who wanted to share a little piece that they wrote now? 3 minutes to describe your room? Might just be a few words.
I had internet difficulties, so I was thrown out.
Hang on. Oh, I see. Okay, so hang on, Rafael, because you had a lot of turns this time. I'm just wondering if there's anybody else who would like to read who didn't get a chance to read yet. Anybody else?
I will.
Who's that?
I will. Penny.
No, Penny. Okay, go for it.
Okay, my room is 4 by 4. My father's black and white prints hang on the wall above the sofa strewn with blankets and dogs. There's an armchair that was dragged in the other day to sit and watch Romulus, my father, with a friend Sharon. That's as far as I got.
Excellent. So you guys, you've taken this class now. You never again will you be able to hear a piece of writing about place without thinking it also holds emotion. What emotion do you think was in that piece of writing, if you had to guess? Because I know it's a tiny piece. What do you think? Penny, will you read the adjectives, just the adjectives aloud?
My brain is not working. Adjectives, describing words. Okay.
Or adverbs also. Anything to do with like just describing.
Black and white prints, strewn with blankets. The chair was dragged in.
Dragged, okay.
Dragged.
Dragged, black and white.
Watched.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's it. Hung Hung.
Hung. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you guys were reading this, now that you've taken this class with me, if you were reading this, what do you think the writer is trying to convey? Is this a real positive scene, or is this a scene going somewhere else? Take a guess. Come on, you can do it. It's not that hard.
The two words that came to mind were comfortable ease.
Right. So some part of it, because of the couches and things, it makes it seem like comfortable ease, but the descriptions don't match. Right? The descriptions seem on the dark side. So if you were writing, right? So I don't know what Penny's intention is. Penny knows what Penny's intention is. If Penny's writing something where she's hoping for a cozy feeling, she might consider changing those adjectives to something that conveys cozy feeling rather than leaning towards the dark side, right? And vice versa, she can still have the cozy couches there, but if she's using all those negative adjectives and adverbs, which are the descriptions of actions and things, right? If she's using those, then you might be like, wait a second, it looks cozy, but it's not. Does that make sense? Everyone got that? Yay, all right. Let's see how much more time we have. I might have to zoom through the thing. Okay, so yeah, basically, this is just what I said, but in more fancy words. We'll move to the next one. This might not, I don't think we have time for this, even though it's a very cool exercise, but you can look at it later on if you wanted to, just go to it. So here. Now again, we're going to go back to Tolkien. Oh, come on. Get back here. Previous. So this is kind of a thing that even if you want to create this fictional setting, which you have been doing, which you wrote something for me, which I didn't get everybody's stories yet, but I would love for you to send them in so I can take a look and we can talk about those stories, not just stuff that you produce in a rush in the class. So if you want to create a fictional setting, you have to spend some time thinking about the rules of that landscape and how it's going to affect your characters. So in Tolkien, for example, does anybody know some of the rules of the Lord of the Rings? What's a rule of the landscape or the place of Lord of the Rings? The rules of the world of the Middle Earth. Does anybody know Tolkien? Am I like talking to people who don't even know who Tolkien is? I mean, that could be totally fine, and then I'll go back to J.K. Rowling. Something that everybody knows? No? No? Oh, this is really serious. All right, so, okay. Next week, Goldie will never again bring up Lord of the Rings. Okay, so at any rate, Tolkien, who was a writer, he was also a professor, in writing the Lord of the Rings, he spent years and years and years creating languages. He was a linguist amongst many other things. He created languages, maps, geological systems, mythology, and history of this place that he was writing about. Yes, Brenda.
I just wanted to say I once read somewhere that the fairy tale, the Princess and the Goblin, inspired this story.
Was what?
It said, I read somewhere that it inspired the Lord of the Rings.
Oh, that's cool. Really? MacDonald's story inspired Lord of the Rings. I would not have guessed that, but that is very cool to think about. And
yeah, I mentioned it because I read that fairy tale and I think it is highly underrated.
I think it's a fabulous one. I second that. All right. Anyway, so the hobbits, who are like these little furry people, like this one right here, this is Bilbo, as drawn by the writer. He drew his characters, right? The hobbits don't live in the ether. They don't live nowhere. They live in a highly specific time and place, and as a result, they seem real to people. The better job you do of creating the environment of your story, the more people will believe that it's real. And that's what we hope for as writers. We want people to go, wow, I care about that character so much that I'm going to write a letter to the author and say, she shouldn't have done whatever, right? As if she was a real person. What did she really do? How is she now, right? I get letters like that from people who say, where is she? Is she okay? I'm like, she's fictional. She's fictional, right? But that's what I actually hope for when I write. I hope that people feel that the characters are real. And that comes from a commitment, I want to say, to different parts, a commitment to the character, a commitment to place. A lot of people don't talk about place, but place is really important. Okay. So here we go again. Wait, I should have an assignment here for you. Where is your assignment? Did I not do it? 1 second. That is so serious. Okay, well, it's back. Go. Where is this? Okay, well, here we go. So what I would like for you guys to do for this coming week is I'm going to go back to it. I realize where it is now. But I want you to send in your work. So when you write something, I have right here, here's my email address. I am not kidding about this. I will do a much better job for you as your teachers. It will be much more personal to you if you're able to send me your work and then I can talk about it in class, right? So Rafal and Brenda, who were in my class last time, they shared their work with me and I was able to custom make the program so that it felt better to them. I hope it felt better to them. Brenda's shaking her head. No, it didn't. But I did try to make it, are you smart? Okay. Well, I did try to make it personalized, right? It's much more fun if the teacher is focused on your work rather than, let's say, on The Catcher in the Rye, which is one of the people, or Tolkien. Instead, we're talking about Sarah or Penny or Brenda or Rafal or the other people who are in the program, right? Okay, so here's the work that I would like you to do for this coming week. And it's connected with the previous thing that you did for me as well. So you can improve the mood and the setting of your story simultaneously, which means to say, convey the feeling of the character. And the way that you do it is very similarly to, let's go, no, not that one. It's very similarly done to this. So remember how Flannery O'Connor uses this language, right, to create a feeling in the story, the same way that this artist used coloring, like Rafal pointed out, or darkness or dirt to create a mood, a feeling. So that's what I'm going to have you guys do as well. Here's your exercise for this coming week. Choose 2 emotions that might come up in the long short story that you're currently writing. That's the short story that you started this past week and that I wanted to see but didn't see, except for one of you. So choose 2 emotions that might come up in the long short story that you're writing. Any 2, I don't care what they are. Then make a list of adjectives and adverbs or powerful nouns and verbs that are expressive of each emotion. So just a reminder, adjectives mean a description of a noun or a thing, a description of a thing. So like glasses, that's a noun. Green glasses, the green part, that's the adjective, right? On adverbs, it works the same way. So run, that's a verb. So an adverb is run really badly and slowly puffing, right? So the description of the way the verb is happening, that's the adverb. Finally, use one of those lists when describing where your story is set. Make sure something's already happening in the story when you begin. Those descriptors will be used for the action too. So to kind of summarize that, right? Let's say you choose, I'm going to go back to this image so you understand what I'm saying. Let's say the emotion is distress. So then you come up, you kind of brainstorm a whole bunch of words that have to do with distress. Dying violet, darkly, bulbous liver-colored monstrosities, uniform ugliness, narrow collar of dirt, grubby child, hands in pockets, head down, glazed, completely numb and sacrificed, right? So you come up, you brainstorm this list of things that kind of convey that emotion to you, right? Your version of that. Then you're going to use them in the story the same way that Flannery O'Connor put those things into the story. So she could very easily have written, he opened the door himself and started down the walk to get her going. The sky was dark and the houses stood out against it. No two were alike. Since this had been a fashionable neighborhood 40 years ago, his mother persisted in thinking they did well to have an apartment in it. Each house had a child near it. Julian walked forward with determination to spend time with her pleasure. And that tells me nothing about how he feels. Instead, she added these things in. And there's really good documentary evidence actually in the Harry Ransom archive, where a lot of writers keep their work, that writers like Flannery O'Connor or Margaret Atwood or some of the well-known writers, literally they brainstorm lists, just like I'm asking you to do. They brainstorm lists of things and then they throw this stuff like a net over the story to create a feeling, a mood, a tone in the story. So you're going to come up with that list. You're going to plop it into your story. And it's not solely about describing a place. It's also telling me how your character feels in that moment. So like, let's say Brenda's story, which is about a fairy, not a fairy, I'm so sorry, about a girl who has to go fight monsters, but she's kind of stymied in every way. She's frustrated, she's stymied, she has difficulty connecting with her family, she can't go do what she wants, her mother's upset at her. There's like a lot of feeling there. If Brenda were to brainstorm all those feelings and she would kind of get a list happening and then put that into the story, that will change the way the story comes across to me. Instead of kind of just a neutral, flat story, which is fine, it will become a much more emotionally evocative story, which is great, not just fine. So that's what I'm hoping for. And this is not a long exercise. I just want you to brainstorm the things and then write for 5 minutes using those things. So like there's a little list there and you guys can access these, what are they? PowerPoint things. They're on the website for After School Village. So you should be able to just like go to our class, click on the thing, so that if you're wondering what you're supposed to do, then here it is, right?
Also, the recordings will be up, so
the recordings, right?
To it.
Although why you would want to listen to me I don't know. Anyway, so yes, so there you go. That's what I'd like you to work on. And please, this week, I'm not kidding. Send me your stuff. I want to read it. I want to be able to work with you in the future classes. Any questions?
Not for now.
No.
Not for now. Oh, Rafal, that sounded so gloomy. Not for now.
I'm a bit tired. It's 1 a.m. over here.
Oh no, I'm sorry, honey. Okay. It was lovely seeing you. Anybody else have questions?
No.
No questions.
No questions? All right. Please, I'm not kidding. Send your work to me. I'm not going to steal your work. I want to help you get better.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Goldie.
Thank
Bye,
you
so
Vicky.
much.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, bye.
Bye. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Have a nice one.
Bye.
Bye-bye.